Because I'm not going to lie to you, it's not just you-know-who that's got an issue with made layups. There is like a pandemic in this league. I kid you not. With some of these players and their made layups. How about a little DeWanna Bonner action? You know, not that I'm trying to throw shade, but again, a made layup, which is, frankly, let's just keep going. There, frankly, it's good to see in this league. Caitlin Clark to DeWanna Bonner for a bomb from downtown. Look at this. That's the tall gal. That's the tall gal hitting that. I mean, seriously.
The arena went silent when Sophie Cunningham went down with that ankle injury against Atlanta. The Fever's perfect preseason was hanging in the balance, and suddenly all eyes turned to Lexie Hull on the bench. What happened next changed everything for Indiana's season outlook. Hull didn't just fill in, she exploded for 11 fourth-quarter points, weaving through defenders and hitting mid-range jumpers with ice in her veins. Coach White called it afterward. Hull's embraced her role, and her confidence is expanding her game. This isn't just about going 3-0 in preseason. It's about depth nobody saw coming.
Wicked step back three. Look her drive in, take a step back, push away. Boom. Three-pointer, beautiful, beautiful shot. She takes that step back three. It's gorgeous. Caitlin Clark already in mid-season form on the three-pointers. Right here, you're going to see her come down. Sophie Cunningham's got the ball. She's going to pass it off to Caitlin Clark. And Caitlin's going to take a wicked. How about we get a little love to Sophie Cunningham? This is going to be a pass from Caitlin Clark in as Sophie Cunningham cuts towards the basket. Right here, you're going to see her come cutting in right there with the pass. Nice little made layup.
Kindly please like the video and subscribe to the channel to support us. The Indiana Fever walked into preseason with everybody watching them. Then things got crazy real quick. Imagine this scenario. Your #1 draft pick gets hurt in warm-ups, and your veteran leader crumbles with an ankle injury mid-game. Most teams would fold right there. Game over, panic mode activated. But that's exactly what happened against Atlanta. Caitlin Clark took a hit during warm-ups that had fans holding their breath. You could see the medical staff checking her out, and everyone was thinking the same thing. Is the preseason about to end before it even starts? Then during the actual game, Sophie Cunningham went down with that ankle injury, and suddenly the Fever were missing their floor leader when they needed her most. Clark played anyway. That's the thing about her that doesn't show up in highlight reels. She's tough. Playing through pain, she still dropped 13 points, grabbed 6 rebounds, and dished 7 assists in just 23 minutes.
In Atlanta, this was a preseason game. My goodness, the first thing I can come out with here is that feed into the league pass. Am I the only one? I noticed Lexie Hull had a bunch of minutes in this game. 14 points. Looks like she got 5 boards, 4 assists. So, let's start this out. Right here, Caitlin Clark coming down the court. Yeah, she's going to dribble, and then she's going to pull up for a long three. Bang. Right there. Beautiful three-pointer.
That's not normal for a rookie playing hurt in a game that doesn't even count for the standings. Then came the technical foul moment. Clark was frustrated with a call, fired the ball against the stanchion, and got teed up immediately. Her competitive fire was burning too hot. That's when something interesting happened. Cunningham, even with her ankle wrapped in ice, hobbled over during the timeout. She pulled Clark aside, talked her down, and you could literally see Clark's whole demeanor change. That's team chemistry building in real time. Coach White was experimenting all preseason with weird lineups anyway. Different combinations, strange rotations. It looked random until those injuries hit. Suddenly, those experiments paid off. Players who got extra minutes earlier stepped in confidently. The defensive schemes had to change on the fly against Atlanta. Players were communicating, switching assignments, covering for each other like they'd practiced it for months. The Fever didn't just survive preseason. They went perfect 3-0. They turned potential disasters into chances to grow. When Clark was struggling, the bench stepped up. When defensive assignments got confused, they improvised new schemes.
ESPN released the viewership numbers for the Indiana Fever versus the Brazilian national team game. This was the game that was held at Iowa on Sunday. So the game averaged 1.3 million viewers. It peaked at 1.6 million. The Indiana Fever break attendance and viewership records in their preseason game against the Brazilian national team. So what does this mean for the WNBA as a whole, and can they finally become? And this was up 13% over last year's regular season ESPN average for WNBA games. So of all WNBA games last year, this was up 13%, the viewership.
When emotions ran hot, teammates cooled them down. So here's the big question waiting for an answer when the regular season starts. If Indiana can sweep preseason while dealing with injuries, technical fouls, and lineup chaos, what happens when everything actually clicks for them? Because right now, they're proving they have both the star power and the depth to handle serious problems. And that should worry the rest of the league. When Sophie Cunningham went down with that ankle injury, most fans were thinking the perfect preseason was about to end right there. But Lexie Hull had completely different plans. Nobody saw it coming. Hull started that game as just another role player on the bench, but suddenly she was thrown into a pressure cooker when Cunningham limped off the court. The game was still hanging in the balance. The Atlanta Dream were bringing serious defensive pressure, and Caitlin Clark was already dealing with her own issues from that pre-game injury. All eyes turned to Hull, and the pressure was on. Would she shrink or step up? Hull responded by attacking the basket like someone had flipped a switch inside her. She was finding lanes between defenders that honestly didn't even look open. There was this one play where she split two Dream defenders and finished with this smooth layup at the rim. The confidence was just coming off her in waves. Then her mid-range jumper turned automatic in the fourth quarter. That's when Hull truly took over, scoring 11 of her 14 points when the pressure was highest. She was getting downhill and finding the bucket over and over, pushing the Fever's lead when they needed it most. The chemistry between Clark and Hull looked like something special too. Clark was finding Hull in perfect spots for easy buckets. It wasn't just random. They were connecting like they'd played together for years instead of weeks. Coach White couldn't stop praising Hull after the game. When you accept your role as Lexie does, you can't allow it to put you in a box, right? That's high praise from your coach. White even trusted Hull to make decisions and run actions, saying, "She's done a really good job of putting herself in position for that. You trust her on the floor, you trust her to make the right play and make the right read." Hull's defense matched her offense too. She was disrupting Atlanta's plays, creating turnovers, and starting fast breaks. It was a complete two-way performance that sealed both the game and the perfect preseason. So why is Hull suddenly emerging as the Fever's secret weapon? She's transformed from just a role player into someone who thrives when games get tight. Hull actually said her success comes from their competitive practices. The confidence builds from those game-like reps. The big question now is whether this is just the beginning for Hull. This performance potentially changes the entire dynamic of the Fever's rotation heading into the regular season. Is she about to become a key piece for Indiana when the games really count? So what does this perfect 3-0 preseason really mean for the Fever? It's not just about winning games that don't count. It's about proving they can handle problems when they pop up. Injuries happened. Clark got a tech. Lineups got weird, and they still won everything. The real test starts May 17th against Chicago. That's when we'll see if Clark's shooting, Hull's clutch performance, and this team chemistry actually matters. The Sky are already planning special defenses just for Clark. Indiana built something in preseason that nobody expected this early. The foundation is there. Now we find out if they're really ready to shock the league.